Hey everyone, I just wanted to show off some things that we were doing in class in the last couple weeks. And this is our Programming for Composers course. And we've been building more on what we could call stochastics, if we want a formal word for it. But as a composer, I tend to think of it more useful to call it shaping randomness. We're dealing with random numbers and finding ways to shape it and to help us make some musical decisions for us, with us, and all the combinations. And this technique goes back a long way. It gets attributed to Mozart. See there, attributed to Mozart. More likely Mozart's publisher who did something like this, and Johann Kirnberger seems to have done the first one, but 1750s. And so you roll dice and you decide for which measure. Well, it ends up picking from some pre-composed measures here. And so just like we rarely go listening to pure static, which is pure randomness, we like it more organized than that. And so often we like our randomness to be corralled in some way and put into the right context. Previously in our class, we've seen a lot of examples of that, but I want to show this one that we did last week. Yeah, here's random right there, see it? And what we're doing is I, as the performer, will pick from these 5 keys that I'll play, and that's what the computer sees when it sees those keys, just because that's how the keyboard's set up. There's a button to make a random pitch happen. There's a button to leap down or skip down, so by a smaller amount than a leap, or skip up or leap up. This is a study in just pitch contour, and so I can start with a random pitch. We can have some more random pitches. We can do a bunch of them. Yeah, it's kind of what you imagine. It's maybe interesting for a texture, but it needs some shape. We should corral it into the right scale. So what if I just give it some direction as far as, let's pick that note and then go down a little bit. And then what if I just pick this pattern of random note, skip down, leap down. And so once we're set up, we can even recognize this contour, even though we don't even have a scale, let alone a key. But we can get used to this pattern so that we notice when we start doing something else in terms of pitch contour. All right, that is very enchanting to play, and well, reverb always helps too. That was a patch I call Ping, thinking about pitch, and maybe sometimes all that matters is the pitch contour. This one is Pong, and it's totally unpitched, thinking about the same continuum of possibilities, but in terms of rhythm. And so what I'll do is I'll press a key and it will bang a note in, and then it'll bang another quick notes in, so it plays a little burst of rhythm to get it started. And let's see. Here's the randomness, there's the randomness. And they're just random delay lines. I've got one delay line here that's pretty quick, fraction of a second. Another delay line that's several seconds long. And then I have this other random object that's picking which one to listen to. And so it's really just chopping itself up and sampling itself up. So I like to use this to make a point that one of the things that matters most about music is not your key, not your time signature, but just repetition and variation. And so this is just copying itself and warping time a little bit, since these delays are shifting in time. But it allows motifs to emerge and get chopped up, recombined, and transformed. But we've got Ping, that's pitch only, and we've got Pong, that's rhythm only, and so that set me up very nicely to do ping pong. And so you remember this downward diagonal pattern that was in Ping that allowed me to pick a random pitch and then leap down, skip up, or leap up. And then Pong itself had the shifting delay lines. So this is Ping and Pong put together. So I will click the button. It'll make a burst of 3 notes, picking randomly which way to go, up or down, using this internal feedback cycle to repeat itself and vary. All right, and that was just all for me, just doing that one click to get it started, and then it went. And so besides just plain stochastics or shaping randomness, well, we might want to impose some more order on our music. And well, yeah, I was already making some things like, well, I'm going to limit the randomness to these particular decisions, things like that. But we have this other approach that gets called rule-based systems. And one of the earliest example of this is not from the 1750s, but the 1950s. Actually, 1756 and 1956. That's curious. So stay tuned in another, 130 years? So this is the first computer-generated string quartet. It's called the Iliac Suite because that was the name of the computer at the University of Illinois where it was composed. And this is the third movement. You can see it's a little sassy, and each movement tries some different approaches, different rules. And so I've been showing, in the name of rule-based systems, the structure called a Markov chain. In the simplest rule-based system, it also gets called an expert system, where I, as the expert, might go in and say, well, if I play a C, then a G is pretty common to come next, and a E might come next, a D, F maybe less so, A maybe less so. And so I'm just picking out, given which note I'm on, what notes are most likely to come next. And, well, there's an object it's short for analyze, okay? But so the anal object goes nicely with the prob object. So the prob object lets us do the Markov chain, and we could make our own rules and then send it a now message, we call it bang, to ask it what pitch to play next. If we use the anal object, instead of just making our own rules, what the anal object will do is listen to what's been played and feed that into the prob object. And so it's listening to music. And so I had a student quite some time ago pour in some MIDI files of Bach, for example, and then use Nintendo Wiimotes to shape how it was playing through it. But let's see, I've got a little typing keyboard interface here, but I can musically play some notes in here. And given that I've played that, then it will see, well, what's the most likely note to come next? And so this is me clicking for each note, because I don't have anything making rhythm decisions right now. So it's remixing the notes that I've played, and only the pitches that I've played, but in combinations that were most likely to have happened. It's a way of, we might say, extrapolating, at least in the spirit of what had been played. But this is limited just to the pitches I've played. But a Markov chain as a type of rule-based system, it doesn't have to just think about what pitches were played. I can give it different information because it's just numbers to the computer, and then the computer doesn't know. Okay, and so here you can see I've got a very similar patch here with our anal and prob objects. And I'll open it up for training, and I'll play something like I played before. Different timbre in this one. All right, so I've played some stuff into it. I'll close it off for training, and now I can just bang in to make new notes happen. But this one was not looking at what exact pitches I played. It's looking at the interval from one pitch to another pitch. This allows me to get to new pitches and have intervallic coherence, like, my boy Anton Webern. So a lot of major thirds. And so, let's see, I can open it up to train, and this one has a 20% chance of making a random note happen. So besides just being an expert system where an expert had decided what rules should be put in place, we've been dealing with Markov systems that are data-driven Markov systems. They've been looking at examples of things that had come before, and this one, especially when I leave it all on its own, we might say is self-organizing, because it can take what it's done and run wild with it and learn from what happened, however it happened. And so that's, devoid of rhythm or full of rhythm, however you want to think of it. No rhythm decisions are going on here except for the time in milliseconds. And so I can clear out its memory. Don't mind that other message, given it's a now object. Anyhow, now I can have it autoplay. It doesn't remember anything, so it's going to come up with a lot of G-boss, I don't know, until it picks some random notes. And then those random notes will decide what intervals will be played and what it learns to do next. Those repeated notes were so surprise. But a lot of intervallic coherence. Let me clear it out again. A lot of octaves in this time. Clear it out again. Okay, a lot of major thirds in that one. And that's the Glenn Gould blast of things. We can be more musical by picking notes ourselves in rhythm and leaving pitch up to the system. Clear it out. Let's try it again. And so, is it me or is the software that's making the notes? Well, it's both of us, kind of like the right hand and the left hand of a guitar. But note how all these Markov chains, these rule-based systems, still using an awful lot of shaping randomness. Stochastics is still needed for all this stuff. And remember earlier when I was saying, we don't just use pure random numbers, but we shape them in some way, which means we're imposing rules. So there's kind of a sliding scale between stochastics and rule-based systems and maybe other things. So we can have that self-organizing Markov chain. And so we'll let a modified version of Pong make our rhythm decisions here. We'll see them come in here. It'll listen to what's been done. There's a 20% chance of having a random number chosen for the pitch. So this is using a Markov chain, a data-driven, self-organizing Markov chain. It's constantly updating itself, which is a type of rule-based system that we've used in conjunction with a stochastic system for rhythm, shaping randomness, to make pitch and rhythm decisions for us.